What is up, Bears fans? Welcome to the Bears Huddle podcast. I'm Aaron James. I am your host, and this is your UK take on our Chicago Bears, guys. Day 2 of rookie minicamp is in the books. It's signed, it's sealed, it's delivered. And done and dusted, guys. We are ready to move on now. Look, what was the standout things from this day? There was the big thing, the big talking point has got to be the situation with Luther Burden. Now, Luther Burden, obviously widely regarded by a number of Bears fans as the most exciting pick in this year's draft, a wide receiver who should realistically have been wide receiver one, a guy who has already stated the rest of the NFL. They got to pay, guys. They got to pay for passing him up. Not. But the guy's been humble the rest of the time. He's not been no Shador Sanders, Mr. Cocky, Mr. Arrogant, Mr. I think I'm the second coming of Tom Brady. Yeah, I'm probably more like the second coming of Tim Tebow. Look, this is a situation that the Bears don't want, is an injury situation. We don't want injuries this soon already. We are, just in rookie minicamp. There is still OTAs. There is still training camp to come. Now, obviously, we have injury concerns already at the club, at the team, with the situation, obviously, with Braxton Jones. He is not yet, obviously, fully recovered. Question marks over his involvement in training camp and where he will be. And now, obviously, as well to add to that, Colston Loveland has not taken part in any sort of contact practice due to his continuing recovery from that shoulder injury. So obviously Colston Loveland was the Bears' first pick in the draft. Now, the guy who was the second pick has gone down injured. Now, what is the extent of that injury? We do not yet know the extent of that injury. But what happened? Those of you who don't know, what the hell happened? Why are we talking about an injury already in only after the second day of Bears rookie minicamp? Well, apparently wide receiver Luther Burden, who was looking very good, playing mostly out of the slot, which I think is where Ben Johnson wants to use him. I mean, it gives us a hell of a lot of threat, doesn't it? DJ Moore, Raymond Dunze out wide, and Luther Burden in the slot. What a group of a trio of quality wide receivers that are going to make the rest of the NFC North sit up and take notice. Because, as Seth freaking Rollins said the other day, we've also got the king of the NFC North, the best quarterback in the NFC North, Mr. Caleb Williams, who is, in the words of Seth freaking Rollins, undefeated at Lambeau Field. Gotta love that guy. Anyway, back to Luther Burden. What happened? Well, according to 670 The Score, Luther Burden caught a pass deep down the sidelines near the end of practice. He landed very awkwardly on his side. He clutched at his midsection before he was looked at by a trainer. This is not what you want to hear. This could be a muscular injury. It could be an impact injury. It could be not had the wind knocked out of him, which you've got to kind of hope it is. It could be just a shock of landing on your side. It could be anything, guys. Now, that's obviously the worry. Now, a lot of the position coaches and obviously coordinators spoke after the day 2. Obviously, Ben Johnson spoke yesterday. Now, the likes, obviously, of Declan Doyle, Dennis Allen, Eric Bieniemy et al. Spoke post day 2. Declan Doyle would not comment on Luther Burden's injury status. He said that any injury updates will be given by head coach Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson, though, was not available for comment after Saturday's rookie minicamp because he spoke to the media on Friday. So obviously this is a concern. We don't know what the situation is. Now, like I said, he had a good day, Burden. He'd looked quality. Like I said, he'd worked mostly from the slot. Had the play of the day, according to Clay Harbour, when he beat a corner and safety down the middle of the field for a long, deep touchdown, which is something that he is very, very good at. Like I said, he is someone who is a quality player who is expected to have a major impact on the Bears this coming season. We looked at his college stats on yesterday's video, didn't we? Now, the Bears are scheduled to have one final day of practice on Sunday, after which Ben Johnson will speak. Now, obviously, one of the big interesting things that will come post this is whether or not Luther Burden fully practices and takes part fully in day 3 of rookie minicamp, or whether he sits out, or whether he takes a non-contact role, or what sort of role he takes. And if he does, what Ben Johnson then has to say post that practice. That is going to be the big tester. Certainly, I think, we're all hopeful that there is nothing seriously wrong with Luther, and it is just merely kind of the shock and a bit of an impact, and a bit of soreness, and he'll be back and raring to go on day 3. Look, I think there was a situation where, today the practice was dialed up. The practice was increased in intensity. Day 1 was a bit of a walkthrough, bit of a getting to know you session, bit of just a general kind of run through, just a general kind of easy in to being an NFL player for the rookies, and obviously for those UDFAs and those who've been invited to practice. However, the second day was a dial-up. It was an increase in intensity. It was an enhancement in intensity, as obviously the Bears coaches seek to look at the draft picks. What have we got? How are they going to cope? And obviously looking at those UDFAs and those invitees. Do any of them make the mark? There's a number of players, obviously, that people have been interested in. The safeties, Tysheem Johnson and Major Burns, obviously. There is still a need at safety. The edge rushers, Xavier Carlton and Jeremy... what's his name? Robinson, I think the guy's name is. Both players, again, we need extra edge rushers. We're not fully blessed in the edge rusher department. Could any of those guys come in? There's obviously others, the wide receiver. I think, there is a number of players there that are being looked at seriously for the roster, or at least for the 90-man roster to start with, and then maybe even for the 53-man roster or the practice squad. But like I said, day 2 was a dial-up. So it was interesting to see. Ozzy Trapilo, for example, was working at left tackle. Is that a kind of highlight already of what we are planning to see in the season? That Darnell will remain at right tackle, which I think is the best policy, to be honest with you. But Ozzy Trapilo will replace Braxton Jones. I mean, Ozzy was a second-round pick after all. The guy is physically huge. Is he someone who can come in and be a day 1 starter in the NFL? That is the big question, obviously. There's other elements we've seen as well, but it was, like I said, a real push up, a real design up, a real increase in intensity throughout today, as the Bears coaches really pushed these players to see what they've got, to see how the rookies that were selected by the Bears can keep up with this. And also, I think, like I said, to look at the UDFAs to see, are any of these guys capable? Are any of these guys able to step it up and become Chicago Bear players? One of the players that stood out today, apparently, was a guy called Jade. What's the guy's second name? Let me just find his second name, guys. Was one of the wide receivers. Now look, let's face it, the wide receiver room is probably not the best one to try and get in, is it? I mean, it is going to be difficult. It is going to be very, very difficult because of the depth already there at that wide receiver position, with the likes, obviously, of Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Luther Burden, obviously, as we've already mentioned him, Zacchaeus, and obviously as well, Devin Duvernay, another one. So there is, already a lot of talent there. But like I said, there is an expectation that hopefully the Bears can find someone out of this UDFA class who can, really step it up and become part of the roster. That is always the hope, isn't it, with all these guys? There is someone out there who can come in. Like I said, there's 2 safeties that people are looking at. That is a position of need. The 2 edge rushers, again, people are looking at that and seeing, is that somewhere that, is that where we can find someone? Is there where we can find a player capable of stepping up and making his way into the roster? Like I said, though, there was one guy who stood out, and that was Jade Walker, wide receiver at Texas A&M. He stood out today. Apparently, he looked very, very good. He ran routes well. He looked a decent player. Jade Walker, obviously, he is quick. He is quite light, though. He's someone who would need to add some serious muscle and some serious bulk if he was going to go on to be part of a 90-man roster. So, he is someone who, could, I think, go on to be a decent player. But like I said, he's going to have his work cut out because of the fact that that is a decently strong room that he is trying to inch his way into. Guys, I'd love to know your thoughts, your comments on this worrying news about Luther Burden, and obviously your thoughts about the UDFAs. Anyone standing out for you? Anyone you think could make the roster this coming season? Who excites you out of those players? Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And guys, let's bear down. Catch you later, Chicago.